Matt Olson. Hello, welcome to BravesKast. It is August 14th. It's actually August 13th, but you're not going to watch it until August 14th or later. And the Braves are, surprise, surprise, still really good, even though there are a couple of red flags that we will get to in today's episode. Mitchell, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I had a good time watching the Braves, especially in Game 1, beating down on the Mets. It reminded me a lot of a certain game against the Marlins in 2020, where I was just best time of my life. And we got to see something that had never been done before, so always a good time to be a Braves fan.
Fortunately, I missed it. I was house hunting. I especially lamenting the fact that I missed Ronald Acuna throwing a touchdown to Ozzie Albies to make it 21-3.
It was weird
cool
that they changed the sport in like the third quarter. So I was messaging you on Twitter, and you just were like, "I'm sorry, I'm looking at these billion-dollar houses. I'll get back to you soon."
I didn't know that Citi Field could be converted to football. That was I saw some of the pictures afterwards. I was like, oh, it works out. Because they didn't have that much foul ground, but they were able to fit. It looked more like
fast,
an arena.
Man, it was like 15 minutes. The grounds crew got it all converted.
Yeah,
really
I
insane.
I didn't know they had that much chalk to make all the. It was pretty crazy. But
well, the Mets players are actually grounds crew members. So when they decided to switch the game over, the Mets players, they already knew what to do.
I was going to say that the Mets are actually the best football team in the city of New York. Actually, well, I guess the Giants were good, and they actually play in New York and not New Jersey like the other guys do. So yeah, we're gonna quickly go through some of these series recaps. We were not far off in our predictions, actually.
Which was
now
weird.
That we're thinking about it,
because it didn't look like that was going to be the case coming into Friday.
All right, coin flip. Who wants the Angels series?
I barely remember the Angels series, but I'll take it. So the Angels bought at the deadline. The Braves lost that first game to give them enough hope to continue buying on August 1, the trade deadline. And then the Braves just crushed their souls. So they won 5-1 in that second game of the series. Strider was on the mound. And then game 2, Yanni Chirinos is basically this year's Tommy Malone. He allowed like 5 runs, but it didn't matter because the Braves' bats just went insane. That really, kick-started the Angels' August. I think they've won 2 games.
They've won
13th.
one, I believe, against the Giants. They have not won against the Astros. I think it was only one, unless they took 2 against the Giants. But I know the Astros have been having their way with them this past weekend.
So poor Shohei Ohtani, maybe he watched that series in Atlanta and went, I don't need $60 million a year. I'll sign a $24 million a year contract, 10 years, 2% to the Braves Foundation, just so I can win infinite championships on this incredible team. The Braves then went to Chicago.
One note from the Angels series I thought was really interesting. So first inning, Spencer Strider against Shohei Ohtani. He gets him on an 0-2 count, and there is a runner on first. Luis Rengifo gets on. I think he walked. The Braves pitchers have been walking a lot of hitters lately, and we will get into that later. Gets Ohtani on an 0-2 count. I have never seen this before. Sean Murphy, first inning with a runner on, does a mound visit. He goes up on an 0-2 count. I don't know if it's just because of the power of Shohei Ohtani. He ends up striking him out on a beautiful changeup. Actually struck him out twice that game. But I've never seen a first inning mound visit after getting a hitter down 0-2. The second hitter of the game. That was we'd have no way of verifying if that's the first time that's ever happened, but it was really interesting, and I think just more of a component of really how amazing this catching staff has been, where maybe he read that Strider was getting a little too excited and just wanted to rein him in, but it was a beautiful sequence and really interesting sequence of events in addition.
Yeah. I think someone needs to do a video on the Braves catching core. I don't know who could possibly do it, but just,
Not
someone out there in the world. If only there was a Braves fan who did videos like that. Anyway,
would
so
be
the Braves
interesting.
went to Chicago. It was the return of Max Fried. I was at the Smithsonian Museum, the Air and Space Museum, and instead of watching a masterpiece, I was looking at planes and spaceships. So, Cole, you want to take it away?
Yeah, Max Fried was brilliant. If he didn't have a pitch limit, I honestly think he would have thrown a complete game. He was efficient. Everything was working. I mean, it was, and mind you, this is a good offense. The Cubs offense has been arguably top 5 since the All-Star break. Actually, not even arguably. I mean, I could say they've been the best offense since the All-Star break. And he had literally everything in his arsenal. His fastball was topping out at 96. He was locating everything. His curveball, that lollipop curveball. It was more surprising when he threw a pitch that didn't generate either a swing or miss, strike, or weak contact. That was how on he was. He was throwing a perfect game through the 5th until Cody Bellinger, who has been 2019 Cody Bellinger this year, laced a single off of him. It was vintage Max Fried. He's definitely been waiting for this moment for a long time, and he took full advantage of it. Game 2, I barely remember Game 2.
I think that was was that Bryce Elder or Charlie Morton?
Charlie Morton was Sunday. I remember Sunday's Charlie Morton start.
So, so Bryce Elder, we'll talk about him in a minute, but he was not good again. And then I don't even remember the final score. It was just the Braves had enough base runners to come back. They shouldn't have won the game. They didn't win the game, but they had a chance to. That would be the start of like 6 straight games where either they won a close game or they lost a close game that they could have won. They had enough base runners. Pitching hasn't been great. The next day, Charlie Morton did the same thing. The Braves lost 2 games in Chicago. Dansby Swanson must be very happy with himself. We're very happy for Dansby Swanson.
We are.
He had a bad series overall, though. He had like a walk and a homer, and that was it.
Yeah. And just a side note on the Cubs series, I think it's funny because last time I checked the playoff, the standings and how they're going to shake out, we're most likely going to face a team from the NL Central in a very in the NLDS, the winner of the wild card.
The NLDS, I think, needs to have some realignment, but the 1 seed will play the 4-5 wild card, which right now is the Phillies and the Giants.
Okay.
The Cubs are the 6th seed, who they'll play the Brewers or they'll play
4-5.
one of the sides. And so I really hate this. This is how the Braves ended up playing the Phillies last year, even though they were the 2 seed. The Phillies were the 6th seed, and they had beat the Cardinals, who were the division winner. I think they need to have some sort of realignment. This is not me just being upset that the Braves lost to the Phillies last year.
It's just the 1 seed has to play the lower seed. Yeah, they gotta. That's why I was thinking that since they're the 1 seed, they would play the lowest seed no matter what.
I think how it should work, and this is going to be a quick aside, but the wild card series plays out, and then there are a few days in between that, and that's when the 1 seed can go either, we want to play the 6 seed or the 3 seed, because maybe the 3 seed is not a very good team.
Yeah.
And so they just want to play that team instead. Or they can choose to pick the 6 seed, and then the 2 seed gets to play whoever they want. Or
do you remember
who they don't.
Few years ago, they were, I think this was 2019, I think this is before the COVID season, they were debating playoff realignment and then adding 2 more seeds into the playoffs. They had the idea for the playoff selection show where each team would send like a representative, either a player or a coach, to on live TV announce who they want to play. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that at all. No.
Oh man, it was sick. Like I thought it was kind of dumb, but I liked your variation on it because this one was just going to be no bye or anything, and it just seemed ridiculous, but I kind of like the one seed, just the one seed getting to choose, and then the rest falling where, well, whatever
Yeah.
team doesn't get picked
Well, they
will
have
play the other
there's not
seed.
too much. It's not like there are 25 teams like the NBA. But anyway, yeah. So going to the Pirates series,
So
you
so
always will take a split in a 4-game series. Like that's a good thing. But this was the most frustrating split
yeah,
think
I was
I've ever
gonna say
encountered.
with the Cubs series, I wasn't too worried about dropping the series against the Cubs. The Cubs are really hot right now. On the road, Wrigley Field is I mean, honestly, I think Wrigley Field should have a roster spot of its own. I mean, it just literally can play differently every game. It's so much. It's really hard to prepare for a game there. And the Pirates series, I feel like we should have taken 3 out of 4, and we
At
almost
a
did.
minimum.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the 2 games we lost, they were very winnable games for us.
So first game was Spencer Strider, probably the worst start of his career outside of that start in Philadelphia in the playoffs where he wasn't 100%. But it also wasn't bad. Like I wasn't going out of that game concerned. He got a lot of Pirates hitters to 2 strikes and then just couldn't put them away. A lot of
Yeah.
2-out singles. I don't think he allowed a homer, did he?
No.
He did walk like 4 or 5 batters. Not something
He
you would want.
I mean, and he did allow hard contact. I mean, it's not like he was giving up squeakers. There was one hit, I believe, Jack Sawinski almost took him out. It was a
Yeah.
double off the wall.
Still, a lot of that hard contact were like low liners / ground balls. So overall, not too concerned. The Braves still had a chance to win that game. I think they had like 3 straight innings where they could have tied it. There was a rain delay, didn't work out in the Braves' favor. Games 2 and 3, the Braves did win. I'm mixing up who started when, but Max Fried started one of those games. Only went 4 innings. Had basically the same thing happen with in the 4th inning. He just got a lot of weird hits. Ended up allowing 4 runs. I think they had a chance on a few infield ground balls to prevent runs. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. Braves ended up winning. They won the Yanni Chirinos game again. I don't get how. And then Bryce Elder started on Thursday afternoon. The Braves got out to a 4-0 lead. The Braves bullpen was taxed. Snett tried to send Elder back out for another inning in the 6th inning. Didn't work out. Braves ended up losing. I hate when the Braves get big leads early and then can't score. But anytime your team scores 5 runs, it's not on the offense,
Yeah. No,
And
none of these
so-
games were on the offense,
No.
in my opinion. I think the only game really out of these 2 series was, I think, Saturday game. I think we only scored 4 runs, but that definitely has not been the problem. Yeah, Yanni Chirinos, I can't wait for him to win the 2005 NL Cy Young Award.
The 2005.
The 2005 NL Cy Young Award.
Man, the retroactive Cy Young winner.
Or whatever year Bartolo won it, despite not even being like the 5th best starter that year.
You want to talk
Bryce
about
Elder,
starting pitching?
Let's finish the Mets series. So we are recording this the morning of August 13th, and the Braves are playing Sunday Night Baseball. Mitchell has family coming to town. I'm going to be on a game show tomorrow, so it just was better for us to record this morning. But I am going to post the score right now after the game ends tonight. That was a good game. Sunday Night
Great
Baseball
game.
is really
Wow.
the selection of Sunday Night Baseball games this year has been perfect. No complaints. I love
I
their
know
broadcast.
everybody was waiting. Yanni Chirinos and Kodai Senga, a great even pitching matchup that
I
everybody
really
flocks
like it when they don't focus on baseball, like when they don't focus on what's happening on the field. That's my favorite part of the Sunday night broadcast. When they just show like an interview or them like investigating Dodger Stadium instead of showing the actual game. I just no notes ESPN. There's a reason that y'all
that
are
one
flourishing.
segment was fantastic.
Y'all have
Just
your
a lovely
finger
fit.
on the pulse. Anyway, Mets series. Wow. So this is the one that we expected to split. I know the Mets sold. I know that they're without Verlander and Scherzer, but it's not like they were much of a roadblock for us. We've lost one game against the Mets this year, and those two guys were not pitching for them in that game. And the reason we lost was because we didn't have Acuna in the lineup because they hit him in the first inning. Yeah, this is a very much of a victory lap of a series. Before the season started, there was a lot of talk about the Braves and the Mets, the two juggernauts of the East. And in response, the Braves decided to become one of the best teams of all time, while the Mets have become one of the most disappointing teams of all time. So, you wanna tackle Friday's game and maybe Saturday's game too, since
I can try. I didn't watch Friday's game. I was watching a much better baseball matchup. The game of the year, actually, Oakland A's versus Washington Nationals. But I was checking in occasionally because, the best games of all time, still have some dead time. Charlie Morton walked 7 batters. If I told you that and I just left it there, you would have thought, man, the Braves must have gotten killed. Morton didn't allow a run. I don't understand how that's possible. Again, I didn't watch the game, but when you walk 7 batters in 5 innings and you also allow hits, that seems like guaranteed runs, right?
I'm pretty sure he let the leadoff man on base each inning he pitched. And again, I mean, I don't have the percentages in front of me, but if I had to guess, the leadoff runner scores 50% of the time if they get on.
Yeah.
If not more. At least 50% of the time.
7 walks mathematically, 10 base runners in 5 innings. That is 2 base runners per inning. That's a runner on second per inning. I don't know. I didn't watch it. I assume he was not dominant, but the Mets are the Mets and the Braves. I don't even remember the final score.
In the game of baseball, either, your opponent beats you or you beat yourself, which happens a lot. The Mets beat themselves.
To the Mets.
They
especially.
Their lineup depth post trading Tommy Pham, Mark Hanna is bad. It's really bad.
So that really showed itself on Saturday, the first game of that series, or the doubleheader. I think might have been the worst lineup I've ever seen, and I watched the Braves in 2014, 15, and 16. I don't even know. Lindor and Nimmo were out, and I think that really hurts the depth, but I don't even know who 3 of the 9 guys were. They had Rafael Ortega and Abraham Almonte, Braves legends. In the starting lineup. They had a guy, Almonte, started game 1 and was designated for assignment in between games 1 and 2. Anytime you're designating one of your starters for assignment in between a game, it's just a bad sign. Alan Winans was really good, but it was a quad A lineup, so I don't know what to make of that. We'll talk about the starting pitching in a minute. And it was just a beatdown in game 1. I want to have the Nicky Lopez segment as its own deal, but Nicky Lopez, the Braves' big trade deadline acquisition, who had played a grand total of 1 game before yesterday as a pinch runner, probably had the game of his life. I don't think anybody ever expects to have a game like that. And then game 2, it was Morton and Quintana, or not Morton, Strider. Strider wasn't the best, and I was worried because it's the Mets, and usually they just get to him. But
my note on Strider actually is for that game is that might have been his most impressive start of the year, because we've been saying this has been something we've been paying attention to all season, is that Strider, and this is true for every pitcher, but Strider, it's very apparent when he doesn't have his fastball, and he is a totally different pitcher when he doesn't have his fastball, because he has 2 pitches, and I would say that pitch makes up maybe 70% of his effectiveness. Didn't have it. He was topping out at 97, and the way he was able to just throw sliders constantly and still able to fool the Mets hitters. His strikeout He had 5 or 6 that game. I mean, it wasn't his most masterful strikeout performance, but that start calmed a lot of my nerves, calmed a lot of my doubts about Strider, especially going into the postseason. Because if he can, if he has a game, a start in the NLDS, NLCS World Series where he just doesn't have it, and he's still able to give you 7 innings of no earned runs, again, he's going to be facing a lot better lineups than the 2023 Mets. But he showed that he can still be effective even when his fastball isn't electrifying. So I was really, really impressed with it. He also overcame his 7th inning woes. So just a clap for Strider. That's something that we've also been paying attention to this season. So I was very much relieved by his performance last night.
Yeah, I know it's the Mets. I know he walked a bunch of batters, but 7 innings, scoreless baseball. I think Strider has been giving himself a hard time more than anybody. I just look at him as soon as something bad happens, and he's not like upset in the same way that like he's angry. He's just like, man, I'm letting the team down kind of disappointment. And I think he should just, I know it's easy as a fan to just say, Strider, just get over that. Like, you're good, dude. No one expected you to be at this situation in this point 2 years ago. We enjoy having you. But I think when he gets down on himself like that, that's when a lot of the trouble begins. And yeah, I didn't really see that yesterday. We don't know what happened in Sunday's game, but we do in the edit because Cole will get that. But let's talk about starting pitching because it has been bad. One of us had a prediction at the end of the first half. You can go back and see who that was, but they predicted that the Braves would have the best ERA in the second half of the season. And what I think they meant to say was that the Braves would have one of the worst ERAs in the second half, because if they had said that, they would have been spot on. It has been bad. It's been really bad. So we have here in the notes, since the All-Star break, the Braves have a 5.31 ERA, which is tied for the 4th worst with the Washington Nationals. Yeah, that's bad.
And that number was a lot worse if we were to record this yesterday before the day game. Luckily, we had Alan Winans, who I just want to make a quick note. Alan Winans, he was actually DFA'd by the Mets, I believe in 2019, 2021.
So he was a Rule 5 minor league selection. So the Mets basically said, you are not good enough as a 26-year-old to be part of the 38 spots we have on the AAA roster.
Yeah, and he got to pitch again. Yeah, was it against a quadruple A lineup? Sure. Was it still against the team that gave up on him? Yeah, cool moment. But the person who made that prediction is going to double down on it. There's still plenty of season left, and the person who made this prediction believes in this rotation. And hey, it's only been a month since the All-Star break. And yeah, I mean, Elder hasn't been great. I'm a little bit, I mean, you don't want to armchair quarterback this, and obviously hindsight's 2020. I still don't think it would have killed us or would kill us to maybe give Elder some rest, maybe Phantom IL him for a minute, just because he's approaching his career high in innings pitched for any professional season, especially in the summer heat. That does catch up with you. So I think it would benefit him and the Braves if he just took a little siesta for a few weeks, or at least maybe skipped his turn in the rotation. Morton, I'm a little worried about. I'm
actually not, but I'll let you finish. But I'm not worried about Morton.
The amount of non-competitive pitches I saw from him in Friday's game yeah, he got out of all those innings, and he's a veteran. He's going to be able to pitch through stress, through pressure. But like I said, it seemed like it was more the Mets beating themselves than Morton really kicking it a high gear and giving him his best stuff under pressure. So why are you not worried about Morton?
So maybe it's not Morton himself, but the Braves, the way the NLDS will shake out, it's game 1 day off, game 2 day off, game 3, 4 day off, which means that the Braves, if they are able to get it done in 4 games, will only need 3 starters. They'll be able to go Fried, Strider, Elder, and then probably back to Fried.
Oh, okay. So you're not you are worried about Morton. You're just not worried about his turn in the order. You're just not worried about him pitching in the NLDS.
If the Braves can advance into the NLCS, it's still not that I'm terribly concerned about Morton. I think he just needs a lot more rest than he's been giving. The Braves have tried to push him back when they can. He's an old guy, relatively. I think he turns 40 at the end of the season.
Yeah.
He still has a wicked curveball. It's just he has these innings where things fall apart. He'll have these 30, 40 pitch innings. In the playoffs, even if he does start in the NLDS, the Braves don't need to roster 5 starters. They'll have an extra bullpen arm. When Morton has those innings, and I don't think he'll not, I think he'll still have one of those weird innings where he'll have like scoreless inning, 4 runs, 45 pitches, and then, another scoreless inning. When that happens, the Braves will have the flexibility to go to a long guy. They'll have the opportunity to go to Jesse Chavez for 2 innings, or Colin McHugh for an inning, or Pierce Johnson has been fantastic. A guy like him. And then not have to worry about trying to get Morton to the 5th or 6th, which is what's been happening when he's starting. I mean, his curveball's still one of the best pitches in baseball. It's just that long inning that is killing him. And I think in the playoffs, they won't have to worry as much. I think Elder, he needs a break. I think that Phantom IL will do wonders for him. And as a third starter, if you're lining up with Philadelphia, you're hitting Taijuan Walker, who is just as volatile as Elder is. Elder and Walker will both have like the best games of all time, and then the next start will allow 6 runs. When you have those two matching up, you're fine. So I'm not really concerned that much about Morton in the playoff sense. I think he's not going to be that guy he was in 2021 in the playoffs. He's going to get through the rest of the season. I mean, he's fine. He's got the second lowest ERA in the rotation.
Yeah.
Like he'll be fine.
And he's a guy, too, you would figure in the playoffs is going to dial up his stuff. I mean, there definitely has, you mentioned the long inning where he does, I wouldn't say he's losing focus, but I think he's at a point right now in the season where he is trying to preserve his arm, and it just makes his stuff is going to be less effective. And, I think he knows, I mean, he's a veteran guy. He knows how the major league season works. And August can be a weird month. This is kind of the month where I think most players, it's a month since the All-Star break, the season catches up to them. And I think Morin is a guy who knows that. And again, hey, he had a very ugly start and still didn't allow a run. So I'm still a little worried just because, like you said, he is old. He's getting up there in age. But it wouldn't surprise me if he does in the NLCS. Let's just, for the sake of this, just say he's not pitching the NLDS. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes, 6 2-earned runs in game 2 or game 3. So
I guess, one guy we haven't even talked about, because I kind of forget he's on the team, is Kyle Wright. And I know he started throwing. He hasn't started his rehab assignment. But if we can get Wright back for 3 or 4 games in September, and he pitches like he has at the beginning of this year. He was fairly good. I think his numbers don't look great because of a bad start or two. But, I mean, there was this one start against Miami where I think he had like 8 strikeouts in 3 or so innings, and then he had to come out because it was a rain delay. If he's that guy when he comes back, and the Braves have taken their time with him, I think if this team had more competition, he'd be back already.
Mm-hmm.
But they did the same thing with Fried, where they essentially were like, we're not getting you back on the mound until there is no pain at all.
Yeah.
He's a guy, if you have Fried, Strider right, then you don't even need to worry about Morton and Elder in the first round of the playoffs. And then you're basically deciding who you want to start. So, I mean, it's August 13 right now. In a month, this rotation could be very different, and one of our predictions could look very, very smart. One guy who I think should not be getting any more starts is Yanni Chirinos. We talked about this last time, I think, where we're both like, I don't get his spot on the rotation. Like, I don't get him. I as much as it pains me, I understand why AA sent down Soroka. He hadn't been very good. I think we're in the wishful thinking crowd that if you gave Soroka more starts, eventually it would turn around. But like, the starts up until now have not been good.
I've been thinking about this recently, and the whole handling Soroka is, again, I can't question AA. I mean, he is, I would argue, one of the best top 3 general managers in the game. But if I were to question him, you know, if I were somebody who, despite not having any experience in a baseball front office, yet thought that he had the right to question a baseball genius, I don't say that lightly. I am definitely a dick rider, but is what is the long term outlook for Soroka? I mean, what is the plan? Where you know, when you're in a job interview, and I've never been asked this question, but I hear it all the time in like media. They ask you like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where does the team see Soroka in 5 years? They have to be asking themselves that question, and they're never going to say this publicly. But if behind closed doors they're saying, yeah, he's not going to be the same. He's not going to be able to recapture that form. As much as it pains me to say this, I understand their decision making when it comes to how they're handling Soroka, and I understand that Chirinos is going to be that stabilizer, as in you just throw him for 5 innings and hope the offense can score enough runs to overcome whatever deficit he gives you. If they are behind closed doors saying, you know what, Soroka, we believe he can come back. I mean, we believe he can recapture that 2019 form because, again, 4th in Cy Young voting as a rookie, or he was 4th in Rookie of the Year. He got Cy Young votes in his rookie year. That's pretty impressive. I don't get it. I don't get it. So the cynical part of me is wondering if they're just saying, hey, maybe he'll be a feel-good story next year, but we don't really see him in this team's long-term outlook. But if they do actually see him as that future Cy Young Award winner like he was projected to be, it doesn't make any sense.
My issue with Chirinos specifically is he's one of
Hey, what's up, everybody? We had some technical difficulties, aka we are too cheap to pay for Zoom, and it closed out on us. First time it's happened. We're very embarrassed by it. But
if you want to prevent it from happening again, you should subscribe to the channel if you're not already.
So our investors know that people really like listening to the sounds of our voices.
The higher ups are really getting on us about not being able to turn this for a profit yet. And if you get us to 500 subscribers, they will be very happy.
Yeah, we've already invested 250,000, so
We really shouldn't have had targeted ads in India for a baseball podcast. I don't know what we were thinking.
Yeah, that guy claiming to be Charlie Morin, who actually wasn't Charlie Morin, who we had to send $200,000 to, really bit us in the butt, didn't it, Mitchell?
But now we know where Sierra Leone is, so we're all good now. We had a geography lesson.
Now we know the
anyway.
conversion rate. Okay, yeah.
Anyway, just to finish it up, Yanni Chirinos, I don't understand it still. I think he's one of the few pitchers who is worse than sending out Soroka every 5 days. Watch him pitch a no-hitter tonight. Anyway, I think they really should use Alan Winans after today. I think if Chirinos has another clunker, another 5-run, 5-inning start, I think Winans deserves another opportunity. He looked great in the Quad A lineup. He pitched well against the Brewers.
Winans, Smith, Shawver, Soroka. Let's have some fun here. Let's rotate guys out. Let's just see what we have. It's just Yanni Chirinos. I know
we know what Chirinos is. We really do.
I mean, you can make the argument that I wouldn't say a reclamation project, but that he's a claymation project. He was in the Rays system, but if the Rays couldn't figure him out, I don't think that we are. No offense to our coaching staff, but it's
the Rays' pitching factory. It's a known thing. They solve pitchers and then they break pitchers forever. Chirinos is lucky that he got out of the system with an arm still intact.
Relatively, he did have Tommy John.
Never mind then. So I really think after today, if today's start is bad, Winans, he's the 30th ranked prospect in the Braves MLB pipeline. Let that 28-year-old prospect get a chance, and if it doesn't work out right, we'll be back eventually. So, that's it for starting pitching. We're not too worried, but we are slightly.
Again, relatively small sample size since the All-Star break. Pitchers start to go through wear and tear around this time, and Max Fried, he's only had 2 starts. I think we'll be fine, and whoever made that prediction might look very intelligent come September 30th. Yeah.
We normally predict decently, unless we're predicting sweeps, which I never do, but...
There's one prediction down the line, though, that we are taking to the bank. We are looking very, very smart on, but we will get to that later. First, the bullpen. This is something that I think a lot of Braves fans, and honestly, I think part of being a baseball fan is just complaining about your bullpen. Like, if you don't complain about your team's bullpen, like, are you really a fan of that team? But we haven't really had much to complain about the last month.
The only thing I have to complain about is it's so rigid that they probably needed to add a bullpen piece before yesterday. Thankfully, Winans and Strider gave 14 innings, and Nicky Lopez gave an inning too. But
Swiss Army man.
The Braves bullpen have no options. Like if they need to send down an arm, there is no one to send down. But they haven't needed to send down anybody because in the month of August, they have the 4th best ERA in baseball, even though they were used like crazy in Pittsburgh and Chicago. I don't know if that's surprising to me, but I am surprised how low it's been, especially after the All-Star break. You had a lot of fans saying we need a bullpen arm, and we got bullpen arms. It just wasn't who we were expecting.
Yeah, and again, the bullpen market, just because of the nature of this trade deadline, wasn't crazy. There was a lot of teams that I thought were going to sell a week before that just got. I mean, the Cubs, they had a lot of intriguing pieces that they ultimately held on to. Pierce Johnson, though, besides having a great name, He's been really good. He's been sort of Iglesias part 2 this season.
He had a rough. I don't know if you could call it a rough game because there was an error, but his first game he allowed a go-ahead double to the Justin Turner. Since then he's been so good. They let him change his number from the scrubby number of 76 to
Like 38.
the professional number of 38. He has not allowed an earned run. His FIP is 1.49.
So one thing also to note too is that he mostly relies on his breaking pitches, and this should have been obvious to us. I think we were so blinded by fan delirium that we just felt like we needed to complain. He throws his curveball more than half the time. If you're pitching in Colorado, that is not a formula for success. Curveballs are basically just slow fastballs up there. They don't have nearly as much break. He's able to locate it pretty well, and it's I mean, again, it's just a market inefficiency that Alex Anthopoulos was able to pick up on and realize, hey, there's this pitcher in Colorado who nobody's paying attention to because his numbers on paper are complete trash, but his arsenal doesn't really work 4,000 feet in the air. We should get him for virtually nothing, and we did. And he's, I would say, will be a important piece of this bullpen come October.
He kind of reminds me of what Jesse Chavez was in 2021, where you had the big four guys. You had Minter, Matzig, Jackson, and Smith. But then right outside of it, you need to go to the bullpen in the 5th inning, the 6th inning. Pierce Johnson, boom. And that was Jesse Chavez in 2021, where the Braves really only used 5 bullpen arms the entire postseason run.
And one thing bullpens are so fascinating. I think they're probably the most, just for the ultra nerdy fans, the most discussed aspect of team building. There's so many, because they're just so variable. There's not really a one size fits all. And I think what the Braves, their strategy for bullpen building is actually antithetical to their bullpens in 2021 and 2022, where it's more, not to say the team that shouldn't be named because they destroy pitchers' arms, but very similar to how the Rays or even the Giants build a bullpen where they're just trying to give you different looks. And Pierce Johnson is your curveball guy. And, against righties, especially pairing that up with, I guess you could say Colin McHugh is as well, but pairing that up with, Iglesias' changeup, or why am I blanking on our other righty guy? Well, I was going to say Nick Anderson, but he might not be ready come October. But you just want to give different arm angles. You want to give different looks coming out of the bullpen, and he's just another weapon. He's just another tool in their belt. And, instead of relying on 3 guys, which, again, it did work in 21, I don't know how repeatable that is. Having multiple guys that you can rely on in different situations, in different spots, I love it. I think that's a really fun way to build a bullpen, and I think it's going to give us a lot of success come October, because that's ultimately what we're thinking about at this point. I mean, these next however many episodes of BravesKast we're doing, that's what we have our eyes set out on. Not to call the division, not to pull a Sal Licata.
Yeah.
But I think in August, with a 10-11 game lead in the East, I think we could start setting our sights on October.
As long as the Braves just don't pull a Diamondbacks, who I don't even know how that happened. I really liked that team. I'm kind of disappointed.
Corbin Carroll has been...
Has he?
He has gone ice cold. His OPS is down to like 850, I believe. Yeah, it's...
Anyway, man, that's disappointing. As long as the Braves don't pull a Diamondbacks, they really just need to hold steady, and I think they're capable of that, even though the starting rotation hasn't been great. The lineup is just so deep that when you don't have Acuna, Olson, Riley on, you have Harris, Arcia, Ozuna on, or Murphy or d'Arnaud. It's just really hard to have a lineup this deep go cold at the same time. And as long as the bullpen or the rotation is working, like right now, the Braves have 2 out of 3 systems working. The bullpen is working, the lineup is working. the rotation will eventually get working, and then we'll probably complain about the bullpen not working or the lineup going cold. But it's really hard to give up an 11-game division lead on August 13. It's not impossible, but the Braves just kind of need to hold steady.
Speaking of the bullpen, we have a new weapon that we didn't even think when we acquired him. Do you want to discuss this since you were watching it while I was house hunting?
We have on the record a live reaction to the Nicky Lopez trade, and while a bunch of Braves fans were like, "What? Why are we doing this? We need a real bat. We need a real arm." We were sitting on BravesKast going, "Man, we really like this trade. We really like this trade. We think this is a fantastic trade." It took a while. Snicker doesn't use the bench ever. In Pittsburgh, one of the nights when Acuna came out because he got hit on the elbow, they had already used Pilar to pinch hit previously in that inning, and so they had to use Forrest Wall.
I was making
team.
I was making a joke that it would take something catastrophic for Forrest Wall to get an at bat.
He has 4 now. Who would have thought?
I think he struck out looking in all 4 of his at-bats.
He has a double to his name. Thank you very much.
That's good.
Double off the first base bag.
A double off the Forrest Wall.
So Nicky Lopez got into his first game in the Pittsburgh series, but he was just a pinch runner. I thought it was funny that at that time, Nick Solak and Nicky Lopez had both appeared in one game as a pinch runner for the Braves, and that was it. And they both scored a run, and they're both named Nicholas, and they both wore 15. That's no longer true because Nicky Lopez is Babe Ruth. He's better than Shohei Ohtani. 4 for 6, a double. His first home run in almost 2 years. He hadn't hit a home run since August 19th, 2021. Hit a bomb to the second deck. Don't look up who the pitcher was. He had 5 RBIs, pitched a scoreless 9th inning. I'd been wanting Snicker to put a position player on the mound while the Braves were winning since like 2020. It never makes sense. The position player is not going to give up 20 runs. Like, just put a position player on the mound, save the pin. Snicker finally did. DJ Stewart, I don't know what he was doing. He took a walk, but other than that, 3 outs. Lopez has a 0 ERA on the season. He also became the first player ever, at least since 1920 when RBIs became a thing, to have 4 hits, 5 RBIs, and a scoreless pitching outing. What a trade. And all it cost was the Braves legend Taylor Hearn. So
it's funny. Later we're going to do grades. Not doing it right now. Way too premature to do that. But I was going to just right now after that prematurely give the Taylor Hearn trade an A+, just for bringing us Nicky Lopez.
He probably won't even play another game for like a month.
He's definitely the rich man's Charlie Culberson. Culberson would never do this, with all due respect to our 2018
Braves
legend.
Facebook will tell you that he would have hit 4 home runs and pitched 2 scoreless innings. Yeah.
But it was a nice, especially, I mean, when you look at doubleheaders, I do not envy a manager going into a doubleheader. I can't imagine just the stress of bullpen management, just team management. I mean, it is a long day playing 18 innings, guaranteed 18 innings in one single 24-hour span. And I don't think a team could have had a better outcomes for a doubleheader. Your offense puts up 21 runs in the first game, and then your starter goes 7 innings the next game. It was perfectly...
both games. Starters went 7 both games.
In both games, perfectly executed. They outscored them 28-3, which I know that number resonates with some of us down the South, but only if you...
I've never heard that score in my life.
Maybe it's cursed. Maybe we actually do pull a Diamondbacks and lose our next 20 games. But it was great job, Nicky Lopez. We don't give out awards on the show yet, but if we did, you would definitely earn one. Speaking of just management of players, there is a culture that this team has had that I'm starting to buy. And maybe I didn't buy it for a long time because I'm a degenerate, but ever since the days of Frederick Freeman, there has
that jar.
yeah, I gotta stop the habit, man. I got called out on it the other day, but there is a clubhouse culture of playing every day, of no days off, throw workload management out the window, and it's worked. I remember, 2018, both Freddie and Nick Markakis played all 162. 2019, Dansby, Ozzie, and now this year we have 4 players on pace to play in all 162 games, which just in today's game, that's just virtually unheard of.
I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest. I thought when that other guy left that it would kind of come to an end because I more effective teams of this decade usually don't have players play 160 games, much less the extra 2. Aside from Acuna, who has come out of like 4 or 5 games because of just precautions, no one else on the Braves has played second base this year. Not a single inning. No one else on the Braves this year has played a single inning of third base other than Austin Riley. No other Braves player on the team except for Matt Olson has played first base. I think especially as we get down the home stretch, the Braves have a competent bench. I know Marcell Ozuna's pining to play first base. I don't know if you saw that segment, but
I did. Yeah, working with Wash.
He's been working with Wash for like a month now. He wants to play in the field again. The Braves have a guy who still leads currently, even though he hasn't played in like 2 weeks aside from yesterday. All of Major League Baseball since 2021 and outs above average. Guy who is fully competent in playing third, short, second. They have so many outfielders they don't know what to do with. I really personally think as the Braves wind down, I would love to see, in blowouts, especially Riley come out of the game, Olson come out of the game, Ozzie come out of the game, just for a few innings. If they still want to play every single day, I get it. It's the rhythm.
I don't even think it needs to be a blowout. I think just even as a defensive replacement, I mean, it's hard to justify that when you have Austin Riley, who is gunning for a Gold Glove this year. Who would have thought that we would be saying this? And then obviously,
like Gehrig, but yeah, he kind of, I think, will be a finalist. I don't know if he'll win it, especially with the Cardinals third baseman still having that reputation. But he's actually legitimately been league average, and that's after abysmal April.
Hey man, if we're going to the 8th, 9th inning, and the opposing team has 3 or more lefties. I know that doesn't happen often, but 3 or more lefties. Put Nicky Lopez at second. Get a guy with some range out there. I do agree with you, and also too. I mean, if Harris and Arcia didn't get hurt, they would be on that list.
Oh, 100%. I was shocked to see Arcia not in the lineup for Game 1 yesterday. Because aside from the games that Arcia has missed, I think he had been out on the field every inning since then and before then.
I think one argument for it, though, is that it does give cohesion, and we'll get into this later when we talk about the offense and the historical. It's been historical, but it's now officially. We're approaching unprecedented levels here. I do like the cohesion. I do like the consistency. I do like that every day that those guys show up, they know that they're going to be where they're going to be penciled in the lineup. They know that they're going to be penciled in the lineup. So, but I do agree with you that I wouldn't mind seeing Lopez get some more reps in the field, or I wouldn't mind seeing, somebody just in case. I mean, you don't want it to happen, but you should always be planning for disaster. And you just don't want to be in a position where even in a playoff game, Olson pulled something, he'll probably be fine the next game, but he can't run for the rest of tonight. Who's playing first?
I mean,
Throw
Austin
Darno
Riley,
out there.
Marcel Ozuna. We have options.
But you do want to at least just not be caught with your pants down. And again, I love it. I love the cohesion. I love the consistency. It's just like flipping the channels and knowing that your favorite TV show is going to be on every night at 7:00. It's like watching Jeopardy every night. But if you're in Jeopardy, you might be effed.
That's pretty good. Speaking of the games that they've been playing, the workload hasn't really seemed to hurt, especially two of these players, the corner infielders. I was not aware of this. Cole and I sent each other the same exact tweet last night. Jay Cutta, our favorite Twitter account,
It's awesome. You should give him a
tweeted
follow.
that Riley and Olson are on pace. If you extrapolate their second half numbers, Olson is on pace for 81 homers. Riley is on pace for 75 homers. They both have 7+ slugging percentages. I made a prediction in July that like Olson would have 40 homers by the end of August, and I thought I was being bold.
And I said I did up the ante. I said 45. He hasn't reached it yet, but he will. He probably will. He might reach it.
He has a chance at 60.
Yeah, he's on pace for 60 now. I didn't even realize that we were talking those numbers. My eyes were set on breaking the all-time Braves record. But I didn't realize that we were going to see we could see the first National League player hit 60 homers since Barry Bonds hit 73 in 2000.
He has more homers than the Braves have losses. I swear, every time Olson's up, he's getting walked or he's hitting a homer. That's what it feels like now. I can't believe it.
Some of the adjustments he's made that we've noticed is one thing. He can cover every part of the zone now. He used to struggle with fastballs up. I mean, again, we've talked about swing in depth. It's a rubber band swing. It's very much just he puts his arms out there and it's very top heavy, and it did leave him weak. And if you notice, like, he's able to recognize pitches up in the zone, and he's not always doing damage on them, even though there was that one in Pittsburgh where he hit it like 450 feet, and it was basically like letter high. But he's able to, off the cuff, recognize a ball up in the zone, and at the very least, fight it off. And that's something that he would not be able to do last year. That was something if he got an 0-2 pitch and it's coming high in the zone, he's just going to strike out on it. Like, that was inevitable. It's just something we had to accept. He can cover every part of the zone now. I mean, he virtually, I haven't seen his heat map in a minute, but just observation wise, like, he can cover anything, and he's able to hit to all parts now. I love his opposite field home run swing, because like his first reaction is, oh, it's going foul. Like it's like, or he's like surprised that he hit it, because that's just not something that he really was built to do until this year. So it's frightening for the rest of the league. I mean, he's the fact that you have this guy who now is on pace for 50 homers, and I mean his average, again, now that I'm the batting average guy, 333 since for a month now. I mean, again, those are batting title numbers, on top of the power, on top of the patience, complete package. Austin Riley has had I would say a different approach.
I think he decided early in the season that he wanted to take more walks, and it just didn't work out for him because he got behind in the count, and then he was struggling. Mm-hmm. I think he's cut that out. I think he's quit trying to do that. He's back to walking like 7% of the time. We don't need him to be a 14% walk guy. And he's gotten back to walking less, which normally I wouldn't endorse, but him and Harris too have decided not to walk,
and especially now with the lineup change. I mean, I next episode we have to look at Riley's numbers specifically since switching Olson to fourth. He's just getting more pitches too. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about being pitched around, because no pitcher wants to face Olson with a man on, especially that it's a given at this point that Acuna or Albies is going to be on. I mean, we will gush for the rest of the season. I think we're at a point now where we can start what's the word I'm looking for? Not retrospecting, not gallivanting. There's a word. Oh man, it was such a good word that I lost. But we can start looking back on what this offense has been able to accomplish. But it's just 1 through 9. It's just there's nowhere you really have a safety net. And I mean, you were basically our ninth hitter. I would say, and this is anecdotal, I don't have hard evidence to back this up. I would say is better than half the league's leadoff hitters in the game.
Yeah,
he has
Michael
a 111
Harris,
WRC plus, and honestly, that doesn't really represent the level he's at currently.
Yeah, Michael Harris is like most teams' number 2, 3, 4 hitters or leadoff, depending on who you have as a manager. I love him in the 9th spot. Like he probably should be hitting. If you want to just go by the book, he should probably be swapped with Eddie Rosario. But there's just something about you get down to Arcia and Harris, and those guys are not easy outs at all. Arcia has like a 120 WRC plus. Harris has a 112 or something like that. Harris, since coming back fully, like since June, has been like 140. You have to face those guys, and then the next batter you face is Ronald Acuna Jr. I just don't. I love that.
By the way, hasn't slowed down. I know it's been kind of a meme at this point that we don't talk about Ronald Acuna Jr. enough because he just hasn't had his most players' hot streak has just kind of been his average this year.
It's kind of annoying, honestly, because we can't go, wow, Ronald Acuna Jr., did you see that massive hot streak he had? Or, maybe he's cooling down. It's
season
just,
has been a hot streak.
He's either like impossibly excellent or just really, really, really good, and there's not really an in-between.
So we're gonna just continue here. We're trying to get before Zoom bounces us again. Ozzie's Albies comments. I just want to kind of, because I saw a lot of people at Twitter on X, complaining about the fact that he interviewed Justin Toscano, great writer at the AJC. Him and Brandon Gowden. They both are are newcomers really to the Greater Atlanta Braves media team. They've both done fantastic jobs. I mean, that just a cherry on top of this amazing season. Brandon Gowden has been just
and
one of my favorite announcers
and Moylo, they're just like friends. Like Chip and Jeff, Chip and Peter Moylan, they got along, but like Gowden is buddies with these guys.
Yeah,
it's so fun to see.
He's like that like younger brother who like respects his older brother, but like isn't afraid to poke at them. It's just so fun to watch, and his quips, his remarks, he's been just hilarious. I mean, really from the day
his
one,
base
where he
stealing.
His base stealing. Yeah, that clip. Chip Carey would never. I'm sorry, Chip Carey
could never.
Yeah. But basically, Ozzie Albies said to Justin Toscano on the Mets, a lot of pleasure in beating them, of course, because they always say they're going to beat us. That's all I can say. I won't say much. Very mild, very Ozzie-like. I just think I personally hate it when people have issues with these kind of comments. I think we're at a point now where players should feel comfortable throwing a little shade publicly. I don't mind it. I like it. And a lot of people are like, oh, just beating them while they're down. Well, you don't want to talk prematurely. If the last time we played them was June, the Mets were still in it in June. And, look at the Pete Alonso throw it again, which wasn't even something he said publicly. That was just something that it was a hot mic that caught him saying that in the dugout. And that's going to go down in infamy because, I know they were already down in the division at that point, but they still thought they had a chance. So I love it. I think it's this Mets-Braves rivalry. This is a very interesting point in time for it, but I do genuinely think that it's going to be a really fun rivalry once the Mets get their stuff together and realize that paying $80 million to two 40-year-olds isn't what creates team success.
I am looking forward to Luis Angel Acuna coming up.
Another component of it. Okay, so just wrapping up here, we're going to try and do this really quickly. So the Braves, as of this morning, we don't know what tonight's game is going to bring, are tied, and I did since 1927, so, apologies to the, I don't know, 1908 Chicago
Detroit
Cubs.
Tigers.
Yeah. The Braves are tied with the 1927 New York Yankees, Murderers Row, infamously known as the best offense of all time, for best WRC plus for a team. Obviously, we still have more season to play out. That number can go down or it can go up. What I'm trying to say here is that we are in uncharted territory. I mean, we are. I've said this so many times that, when you're getting into the game of baseball, you learn about the teams like the Big Red Machine. You learn about Murderers Row, the 1927 Yankees, and you never think to yourself, "Oh, I'm going to be able to see that." That's always baked in the game's past, never really the future. But the Braves are at a point right now where they are just on an unprecedented run offensively. So I came up with some potential nicknames. I don't think we're going to use any of these because I hate all of them, but I do want to get Mitchell's reaction. So we're going to quickly go through these before doing the preview for the next 2 weeks. So are you ready to hear some of these, the nicknames that I've come up with for
I don't think I am, but
our offense? You are not. They are pretty bad. I'm going to definitely have to go back to the drawing board. Okay. First one we have is Cumberland Clobberers. I hate it.
No.
I hate it.
Awful.
All right. The Battery Bombers.
I think that's like a 5 out of 10.
It's like with the alliteration, it's like I think of the Bronx Bombers, but I always thought the Murderers Row was a better name. So I do have a little bit more alliteration, and then we'll move on to just better nicknames. AA's Annihilators. So this one isn't just because of Alex Anthopoulos, but the top of the lineup is Ozzie Albies, or Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies, whose last names do start with A. So little double meaning here. What do you feel?
I'll give it an 8. I
an
like
8.
it.
AA's Annihilators. I want to be respectful, but Oppenheimer did come out this year, and I thought it would be trendy to tie this in. The Chattahoochee Chain Reaction.
I'll give that a 10. That's pretty funny.
And I had a bunch of variation on pacemakers, just because I've noted several times that, especially when we're just going on a run in the first inning, the opposing manager will start to pace in the dugout. So that's where I get the pacemaker name from. What do you think about the pacemakers?
I think it's kind of weak, but I
Yeah.
like the Peachtree pacemakers. I think that's a good AU team 14 under basketball.
Next one I have is the Atlanta Space Program, just because we've already set the record in the StatCast era for most homers of 450 or more feet, or we might be second to a Rockies team. What do you think about the Atlanta Space?
Easily.
First easily. What do you think about the Atlanta Space
I think
Program?
when I think of space and Braves homers, I just think of Jorge Soler, and I don't know.
That's fair. The next one I have is the Hooch Torchbearers. I don't know what I was on when I came up with that one. Let's just skip it. The Quikrete Demolition Squad, because we are sponsored by Quikrete now. We do have the Quikrete
after
patch.
that sponsorship came out, I bought 2 tons of Quikrete. I live in an apartment. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. My
Could be a
closet
good
is full of it.
sound dampener. I know a lot of people use it to absorb sound.
I'll give that a 10,
Then we have
Quikrete has really changed the season.
Then we have the Widowmakers. I just thought it sounded cool. There's really no association with anything.
No.
It's just Dixie's Vengeance. I was really reaching here. Liberty and Death, because we're owned by Liberty Media. And then there's a famous Samuel Adams quote, "Give me liberty or give me death." So I just thought Liberty and Death.
I think that takes too much thought.
Okay. I liked it. The Atomic Squad. I was really on that Oppenheimer kick.
You really were. I think, I don't know.
And then Southern Heat. We're skipping the other one. I don't know. Southern Heat. What was your favorite? What was your favorite out of all a billion of
I'm
these?
going to have to give it to the Quikrete Demolition Squad. I don't know.
The Quikrete Demolition Squad. I
think that's a
wanted
good
one that really like instilled fear, and I don't think any of these
Any of those do.
brought
But
that across.
you know, we are terrible at naming things, but commenters might have something better. So if you have something better, just leave it in the comments and tell us how bad Cole's ideas
Or
were.
if you liked one of mine, possibly comment below which one you liked the most. Because I'm kind of liking Chattahoochee chain reaction now. All right. Anyway, so moving on, we have 3 minutes left before Zoom tells us to run. We have 3 games versus the Yankees, 3 versus the Giants, 3 versus the Mets, and then we go to San Francisco to face the Giants. What are your predictions?
I'm guessing 7 out of 12, so 7-5. I think we're gonna lose one of these series. The Giants are a good team. I'm excited to see Jock Peterson and Luke Jackson again.
That'll be fun.
But 3 against the Mets, 3 against the Yankees. From what I see on a platform that has changed its name, Yankees fans are really gloomy about their season, but they're still over 500. Like they still have
and
something to offer.
they have Aaron Judge back, so I mean they're definitely a better team than they were a month ago. I'm going to the game on Tuesday where I think Luis Severino is still scheduled to pitch. I don't know why they're still giving him starts. I mean he's basically the inverse of the Braves offense, where he's breaking all the pitching records in the way that you do not want to break them. He has an 8 ERA. I think I'm going to say we score at least 5 runs on him. Doesn't sound too bold.
I'm so wary of like making big bold predictions because I don't want it to be
I don't know
like
if
one
that's
of those weird games where a pitcher shows up and even though they've been trash for like 3 months, they have the best start of the year.
But I don't think saying 5 runs against him is if I said 10, that's a dumb prediction. Just because
I'll still go 2 homers. I don't know if there'll be runners on base or not, but I think 2 homers. Are you wearing a Giants jersey?
Oh, the Japanese Giants. My God,
okay.
why am I? It's a Sadaharu jersey.
Yeah.
Yomiuri, are they from
Yomiuri? Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, so my predictions. I think we take 2 out of 3 versus the Yankees. I think the Giants are such a weird team. Like they're
think
good.
we lose the series in San Francisco.
I was thinking that too. I was thinking I'm gonna say 2 out of 3 against Yankees, 2 out of 3 against Giants, 2 out of 3 against Mets, and then we lose 2 in San Francisco. And historically, we haven't really been great in San Francisco either, from what I remember. Anyway, this has been BravesKast. Thank you everybody for watching. Mitchell, what do you got going on? What do you want to plug?
Just read my articles, watch my YouTube channel, What Happened to Baseball, and I've really fallen behind Cole, so I need the subscribers.
Yeah, I last couple times I've been tubing. I've just been reading House That Hank Built articles while on the Chattahoochee. It's the only way I can relax nowadays. Subscribe to me, No More Fielders. I'm about to hit 10,000 subscribers. I think that's when you become a legit YouTuber. Like I think that's when people start taking you seriously. So make that dream happen. But subscribe to Lefty Catcher, What Happened to Baseball.